There we go. Yeah, exactly. All right, is everybody ready? Okay, wonderful. Everybody's nice and quiet. I was kind of expecting people to talk before this.
Can you guys wait just 1 more minute?
You have a very demand.
Yeah. Go read the paper or something. All right. I'm assuming everybody read that slide.
Where's my speaker?
You're going to get feedback if you do that.
I have no idea what the speaker is on here. Is it picking up at all?
Just hum it for us.
Wow, that's really cool. Just read the captions, you'll follow it.
There it is.
Pat here? Raise your hand, Pat. No? All right. Wonderful. All right. The stone faces. That's what I love to hear. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Pat.
That was for the win.
Thank you.
And kittens.
It's good to have friends.
If nothing else, it had kittens in it. There should be applauded automatically, right? All right,
Take it away, sir.
You're here to see Wielding Katana live security suites. I'm JP Dunning. I'm AKA'd as Ronan. And Chris Silvers. Introduce yourself, Chris Silvers.
AKA, I don't know, that funny looking guy, Chris.
That's the new handle that just happened right now. Oh, I have a clicker.
But you'll have to turn it on.
Yours. Make it work. Make it better.
Now it's magic.
Yay, okay. So, a little bit of the agenda for today. We're just going to be stepping through what is Katana, how to set it up, the toolkits, defeating AV, which is fun, portable VirtualBox, the bootable side of things, some documentation, and some fun with the glitch. How many people saw the glitch presentation yesterday?
Woo! Wasn't that awesome?
Excellent. So we're going to get through that towards the end. So what is Katana? How many people here have used Katana before? Okay, cool. Cool deal. It's a consolidation of a lot of different tools onto one medium with two main parts. My focus was for security tools, but it actually expands into a lot of other stuff. There's the Katana Toolkit, which is a ton of portable Windows applications, and then there's the bootable side, which is a bunch of live distributions. It's a one-step install. All of this stuff is bundled together. It's very easy to set up. It runs off a USB flash drive, so you can add, remove, modify all this stuff, as opposed to just an ISO image. This thing you'll be able to customize to your needs if you want to, or use it out of the box. As I said, it's got a crap load of stuff in it. Ideal uses. There are three here that we can think of kind of off the top of our heads. There's a lot of others out there. But on-the-fly pen testing forensics, you have this flash drive. You keep it in your pocket at all times, or on your keychain, or in your car, at the work, or whatever. And you can go at the drop of a hat. You're ready to go. It's also a great learning environment because, again, most of us used to trying to compile open source code or getting a lot of these tools to work. This is a community that develops it, and once the developer gets it working for them, then obviously the project is complete. And we don't necessarily care about the end users that much. It worked for us, and that's good enough. So sometimes installing a lot of this stuff gets a little complex. You have to read a lot of forums or whatever. So out of the box, this will all work. So if it's a learning environment, you don't have to go through that entire big setup phase of things. You just plug it in, and you're pretty much, again, ready to go.
Right. I want to add to that from a teaching perspective, not so much a learning perspective. If you got a group of kids, maybe you're mentoring, they're just getting started in pen testing or interested in security, this is a great environment to be able to obviously show them, backtrack, but also show them other utilities and other distros. And of course, since they're live distros, if the kids mess it up, it's all right. You just reboot. You're still good.
Yeah, because how many of us had messed up stuff when we did the first time? We tried to recompile the kernel or change a configuration file and a reboot, and all of a sudden you got nothing but a command prompt. You could not get X started. Always fun. So yeah, it is. It's good. It's great for that. Also, leveraging other people's computers is another nice thing. You're using all of your stuff is on a flash drive. So you could have your laptop set up to do all that stuff already. gone through all the configuration, or you can just have this, plug it into pretty much any old computer, and now that's the hardware you're going to be using, either the Windows side or the booting into whatever. You kind of took advantage of hardware you didn't need. You have a $10 flash drive versus a $1,000 laptop. Most of us, keeping laptops around anyway, but whatever environment you're in, you can just hop on any computer and it's there, and it's the flash drive in your pocket. Why own your own computer when you can own theirs? So the Toolkit, hundreds of portable applications are in there. Again, really quick, runs out of the box. You don't have to configure anything. It's cross-platform. So again, no installation is needed. A lot of these tools will use just the basic libraries and stuff, basic resources of Windows, which are there for XP, Vista, 7, so you don't have to download all these different versions. They pretty much all of them that are in there will run on all of them. So again, plug it in on whatever system you want, it's ready to go. You never know what tool you might need. Drop of the hat, you've got all kinds of stuff. Some forensics tools, pen testing, networking. I kind of went across the gambit. My goal with it was to do, I'm thinking from a security standpoint, but there's a lot of other stuff you might just want to know about a network that isn't necessarily a security tool, but information gathering is a big part of that. So a lot of these tools do just that. You leverage an existing setup, making it easy. It's highly configurable if you want it to be. It's a flash drive, so you can add and remove files. You can add and remove applications. There are a lot of portable applications that I didn't put on there because it just would have made it even larger than it is right now, that you can add, you can delete, you can update them on their own. Some of them have the automatic updating. And again, these tools that I bundled together, I'm not necessarily involved in any of those projects. I just happen to be the one that compacted everything together. So don't ask me to update them for you. There's not a framework that's doing all this update. It's just, think of it as normal Windows. Windows does not update all of your applications, unlike awesome Linux does. If you do apt-get update, and then everything's good. For the Windows side, it doesn't do that. So you have to update all these on their own, but a lot of them are pretty good. You don't really update that often. Just a short list of a couple of the major ones that we're really used to the name of, Yeah.
So, like, as an example with Nmap or Wireshark, are the permissions that you have limit the capabilities that tool can do? For example, is that the case?
Yeah, so he's asking about the permissions. It does. It depends on, some of these are going to have to install or use resources that administrators might be the only ones that have access to. So depending on the user permissions, one thing that is installed for actually those two tools, and specifically, is if you want to be sniffing on there, you have to install WinPCAP. And I wrote a script on there that installs it and then removes it. So it kind of is not purely portable, but once you're leaving there, it's not. So a lot of these are portable. They're not necessarily forensically sound. If you're going in there and messing around with stuff, there might be a little bit of forensic evidence left. But for the most part, you're leaving the host system untouched when you exit it. So again, as especially a learning teaching tool, you have this environment drops in and then drops out, and you can set it up on any old laptop. So yeah, these are a couple that are in there by default. I keep pressing the button with this in my hand.
You could probably use
that to press the button.
What's this thing? Oh, I don't have to go like 3 inches further. That's great.
How convenient.
Very much. So this is the interface. Instead of you having to go in and individually parse folders and directories and find binaries or whatever, I leveraged portable apps, and they made this interface, and several of the tools that are used, they converted popular open source applications that run in Windows, and they made them in this sort of portable way so it doesn't have to install the whatever programs, directory, and other resources throughout the operating system. They're all able to localize them. So it's a really cool project. They have 50, 60 tools out there. Stuff like OpenOffice is one of theirs, and so it auto updates. But they made this menu structure that I leveraged in here, so that it's like standard, Windows drop-down menu. You click on one and it displays it, and it's really nice. And updating stuff is really easy to do as well. So let's get to our first demo.
Wonderful. All right, let's see it live.
Talk.
That's right.
Demo.
Bye. Thank you. All right, so essentially just plugging in any old flash drive, and of course Windows doesn't understand what you're doing, so it's okay. It'll be all right.
Poor little Windows.
I know it. Okay. Here we go. So essentially just go into your Katana drive there and at the root there, and Katana Toolkit is ready to go.
So it's loading. So when you add new applications, it scans through all these directories and says, oh, there's something new, I'll load it. So that's why it does this little loading thing at the beginning instead of just displaying it. That's something they added, which is super cool.
Stop that. All right, sorry.
Oh, we skipped ahead.
Yes.
We'll get there.
PowerPoint was trying to take over the world. Okay, so as Ronan said, there's several, I'm going to have to kneel down, so sorry. You have to look at my partially bald head. Careful there.
I never knew.
I have kids. So as Ronan said, there's different sections in here, and so you can kind of see it's nice and organized. If you're just kind of browsing around, you're not really sure what you want to use. You want to do some forensics or you want to do some networking, and you're just kind of poking around, right? That kind of stuff. And obviously, my favorite little section is pen testing there, but there's a little shortcut that I recently someone pointed out to me. If you just want to run something, you just kind of click in here and you just start typing, and it will actually, if you actually do it correctly, there we go. It'll actually just kind of search through and start figuring out what you want to find, right? So it's kind of handy dandy there. What I wanted to do was just do a quick demonstration of probably the main reason I would ever use Windows on a pen test is a utility called Kane. And if you're not familiar with Kane, I don't know, Google it. So we could talk for hours about Kane, but
days.
Yeah, days and days. But and one of the probably reasons to do that, other than it makes nice pretty screenshots for the report, is this little functionality called LSA secrets. So the scenario being, you get on a workstation, you pop in your drive with Katana, you crank up Katana tools, and then you crank up Kane, and you want to pull the local LSA secrets that contain information about the running services on the system, and specifically if there's a running service on the system that actually has credentials that it's logging in as instead of local system, right? For example, they have some kind of backup software there, and that software has to have domain admin credentials. We never see that, right? Yeah, NetIQ. And so they're running that, and so as you can see on the screen there, what I've done is just kind of set up a service called SC Fax, or I didn't set it up, I just went into the properties of SC Fax and actually told it to use some credentials. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there is the letter U, and then a period, and then N, and then period, and B. And that is a highly sophisticated obfuscation technique called putting periods between each letter for the actual clear text password.
It was either that or Route 13, right? Those are the two options.
And apparently the guy, the coin landed on tails. Right.
Route 13 was the more secure option.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. Imagine that. So believe it or not, we do pen tests and find this kind of stuff all the time, right? Services running on a box with credentials, and it, lo and behold, turns out that those credentials are domain admin and blah, 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 right? Domain admin in 60 seconds. Okay, so anyway, just as an example of one of the portable apps that I like to use, and
you can see a lot of other stuff. I mean, obviously it does a crap load of stuff. One of those, the IE Pass, I mean, that's fairly self-explanatory. It basically, if you think of a lot of the tools you would use and backtrack, that side of things, Kane does a lot of that. I could almost cut out half of the toolkit because Kane does so many things.
Right.
But,
so can I ask you,
yeah.
like, those weren't actually periods inside there, those were 00 tags.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just spacing, yeah. But it's the whole, you looked at it in plain text and it's there.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to run, pwdumpx and with the LSA secret switch and then open up that text file, you see letter, period,
yeah.
letter, period, letter, period.
Yeah.
It's just how it presents it.
But
when
if you parse
pulls
it
out.
in the real way it's supposed to be, yeah, you're right. It just show up correctly.
Right. Okay. All right, so continuing on, let's see. Could it be that one?
And I suggest, looking at the Katana toolkit, and that's a good way to find out what stuff does, and playing with some of those tools. I can't say none of them will hurt your local system, but most of them won't, and you can discover a lot of things. You get really paranoid really quick when you start playing around with some of those on your local system.
Right, and just from experience, in fact, I think the first time I used Katana, I was all excited, ran the scripts and everything. This was years ago, but plugged it into my laptop and went to crank up the toolkit, and as soon as I cranked it up, antivirus just went nuts. It's like, oh, this is a virus, that's a virus, this is a virus, I'm deleting this, I'm deleting it. Whoa, wait a minute. It took me a while to make that USB. Damn it.
I get lots of nasty emails about that. I'm sure it flags up. It's often labeled as hacker tool, which you are installing hacker tools. So you should, when antivirus pops up, it labeled all the stuff you sent me as hacker tools. Yes, my reply back is yeah, it does. That means they're good stuff. They're well enough known that antivirus said we don't want Kane on there. Kane is not a friend to us. So we need to work on some ways to get around that, and there are ways to fight back against antivirus. One of them is you can tell Windows or Linux and Windows to mount a USB device as read-only. And it's a simple registry key that I'm not going to tell you all that stuff. I say simple, you have to know the whole path. There's a lot of tools out there, little scripts. I think Iron Geek wrote a script that does this for you. There's just a little value there that's either 1 or 0, and if it's 1, I think it write blocks, and if it's 0, it doesn't. So there's a couple of scripts. Just look up like Windows USB write block, whatever, and it'll pop up. And then you need to, once it's mounted, it mounts it like that, and then you change it back. So later on, you're able to modify it later. And then in Linux, you're just mounting something read-only. So whatever's trying to get at it, again, can't get at it. You're mounting them read-only, so that can cause some issues with the portable apps that want to write back to themselves. So some of them will work, some of them won't if they can't modify like their configuration files and stuff. You just have to, try them out and see. But it's better to have some of them working in antivirus. And antivirus will still go off. You'll still get all those alerts, but it'll say, oh crap, I can't delete them. And you're like, thank God, I don't have to redo all this stuff, extract everything and figure out what's gone and everything like that. It'll just like block it. And it might block them from running, but you're not going to lose all that stuff. Another cool thing, I didn't have it on me, is a micro SD to SD to USB adapter, which sounds like a lot of going through. The whole reason that you would do that is SD cards have this nice little tab on it that's a lock tab that tells the OS to mount it as read-only. This is the super poor man's version of, there's some very expensive USB flash drives out there, hundreds of dollars, 150. I've never played with one that do hardware write blocking professionally, which is great, but I would like to go down to my Radio Tech or my local Radio Shack or whatever, grab one of these, flip the switch, and all of a sudden it's read-only, and it works really well. So the whole setup there versus $150, it's like $20, and you can use any micro SD card. So a little tab saves you a lot of money. You could kill the antivirus. Kill the antivirus. This is a standard thing of if you want to be on the box and you can disable it preemptively if you have that access. Do that first. You can go through the other steps, but they're a lot more work to do, so why not just turn it off if you can do it? Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you turn it off and it pops back up. Say, okay, great, it's gone, and 5 minutes later it has that reset process that pops back up so you're in the middle of doing stuff.
Yeah, and there's nothing more rude than,
antivirus.
Penetration interruptus,
yeah.
Right?
How dare you? So, okay. Alternate, you can use Meterpreter. Has anybody used Meterpreter to kill the AV? They've got a nice built-in functionality that does all this awesome stuff, and it kills most of the popular antiviruses. So it's a lot just voodoo magic in the background that you can script ahead of time that just says, oh, I do not want antivirus on this system because I will be obviously leveraging it. And so that'll kill it right away. So that's the best ways I thought of, or I could find out to kill antivirus. Does anybody else have like another idea about that? If you have a very short answer, you can talk to me now, or if you have a longer answer, I'd love to talk later about, obviously this is a big issue for us in large scale, but especially for Katana Toolkit, because I'm bringing all these applications along that are going to be flagged. Meterpreter might be flagged. All these tools are going to be flagged.
You have a suggestion?
Yeah, if you apply deny permissions to the antivirus executables and reboot, they don't expect that. Reboot kills them.
What do you mean?
So it involves a reboot, but you
Yeah.
can just change the permissions on the executable that's running the antivirus to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a good idea.
You're already running as administrative privilege. Put that directory structure in as exclude.
Right, right. Yeah, you can go into like each individual antivirus solution and configure either exceptions or just turn it off.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
If you're admin already, then it becomes a lot easier. If you're not admin, that's where a lot of this issue comes in. We might need to use another alternate technique, because admin can generally kill the AV. If you're just a normal user, you might not have that permission. You shouldn't have that permission.
Shouldn't have it. Yeah.
Yes, if you're configuring your box correctly, which is always the case. People never have administrative credentials on their own box. That would be horrible. Okay, fourth method is virtualizing. So we're kind of being a layer of abstraction here. We're going to use portable VirtualBox, which is not currently in, but will be. And soon you can download it. Just actually search for portable VirtualBox, and you can install it on your own into the Katana Toolkit. But it runs the virtual machine on the system, and you can leverage some of the local resources like networking. So you're not running it, you're not using your tools in Windows, but you can get on the network using VirtualBox. So that's a nice way to, abstract that layer, but you're still bringing it around with you portably. So on the fly, you had it pre-set up, plug it in, and all of a sudden you've got your box. You didn't have to do a reboot, and you can still be, if you need some resources that are on the local host, you still have that capability. So let's move
So what
to
is
the demo.
what the hell did Ronan just say, and what is he talking about?
Thanks for that.
Yeah, because you elucidate so well. So basically, what Ronan's talking about here is in this particular demonstration-only version of Katana, we've gone ahead and put the portable VirtualBox link in the toolkit. So if y'all can see that there, if I moved it up far enough, the portable VirtualBox. So essentially the concept here is you walk up to a workstation, you've tried to disable AV, you've tried to do some privilege escalation, you're just banging your head against the wall. These people are, how dare they have a secure workstation, right? So okay, I can't access the disk, and I can't do this and can't do that. I want to know something I can do. Well, at least maybe I can access the network, right? And maybe put some kind of drop-off box myself and use as a launching pad or some such nonsense like that. So essentially, once you get portable VirtualBox all configured, you can slap whatever VMs you want. If you want, a backtrack VM, if you want a Puppy Linux, if you want whatever VM. You have a question?
Yeah, doesn't that still require adding an adapter, and therefore don't you have to have admin access in order to don't need a network adapter?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that because I almost forgot to show you something in the configuration. Thanks for mentioning that. Nice plant. Did you know this guy? So actually there is a limitation as far as the interaction you can have with the network. And if you notice down here under network, it says NAT, right? Portable VirtualBox works with a NATed interface, right? So it's communicating over with the adapter and then creating a NAT interface for your virtual machine. If you go in and try to change this to bridged, it won't work because of the reason you just said, because it would have to install drivers to actually interact directly with the hardware. All right. So yeah, you're using the hardware, but not directly through an abstraction layer. All right. Good point. And by the way, that does limit you a little bit because then you can't do ARP poisoning and all that good happy stuff. But at least you can still do your discovery and create reverse shell, outbound, and all that kind of good stuff, right? For to use it as a platform or a jump box, I guess. So essentially, just kind of for demonstration purposes here, we've created a little snapshot so that so essentially with this, you basically just crank up one of your VMs that you've kind of got paused, so to speak, through a snapshot, and now you've got Backtrack running on
their box.
On their box, right? And it's fully fledged. You got access to all that good stuff, and then you just refresh, do a refresh on the IP, and you're able to talk through their box onto their network and get out to your network and do whatever happy stuff you want to do with that, right?
Yeah.
Do you share drives work? With
Yeah.
VirtualBox you can share a path that goes.
I haven't tried that yet. I'm still playing
That's
around
a good
with it
suggestion,
lot.
yeah.
It is a good suggestion, so that you can get shared drives so you can have access to the local box through Backtrack in this method. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
This is one of the newer things that Chris had mentioned to me, just using VirtualBox, and so I'm still playing around with it a lot, but I'll have to test that out, because the normal VirtualBox would allow you to do that, and I don't know if driver resources, that's not... The portable VirtualBox is not a project that I'm part of, but suggestions like doing a temporary install for the drivers to be able to do bridge mode might be, it's modifying the system a little bit, but maybe when it goes away, it changes it back kind of thing. Is potentially doable, and I don't know if their project cares to do that, or if that's something somebody else could throw in there, but it might give you access to resources.
Yeah,
like that.
when I stumbled across this, it looked like the portable VirtualBox project probably hasn't seen any development in the last 2.5 years. So, somebody made it, he thought it was cool, and it works, and then he just kind of went on and did something else. So, who knows? Maybe that could get revived, since there's a really good practical application for this.
Hacking.
Yeah.
And probably other stuff too.
I didn't say, the Pope
it's practical.
says it's good. I just said it's practical.
It's practical. I'd like to see that email. Hi, I'd like to hack somebody else's box. Could you write a lot more code for that? That obviously is a dead project.
Absolutely.
You never know. That might actually be the inspiration they needed.
Yeah, who knows, right? All right.
So that's one side. That's the Windows side. That's stuff that people normally aren't used to thinking of Windows portable applications. But one that a lot of us have done before is boot from a live distribution. So my original idea for this and my motivation was to put all these bootable distributions together, because I was carrying around all these CD cases and loaning them out and losing them, and just to have the ones that I needed at any given moment. So I was like, can I just put them all in a flash drive? And then the Toolkit came a little later. So by default, I have 9 different Linux distributions, distributions contained inside the Katana boot menu. So you can boot from any of them. It covers a wide gambit. I tried to pick one distro that kind of focused on certain things that I thought would be important, and not do a lot of them that did one kind of task. Like I didn't need a bunch of them that did pen testing. I picked one, and then stuck with that. So you boot from a flash drive, which a lot of people are used to booting from CD, DVD drives, or has anybody heard of a floppy drive? You guys? All right. So you can boot from these things, but flash drives, it's actually becoming more popular. When I started this project, I would mention this idea to people, and they had boot from a flash drive. They had never heard of it before. They'd never done it. In the more recent years, this project is about 4 years old at this point. In more recent years, it's actually become a lot more common for the reasons that I mentioned, being able to dynamically do stuff. So people boot from flash drives in here now. Yeah, it's okay. It's still just a few that I see heads nodding. So it's less of a weird concept now to boot from it. But it's the exact same way. You boot from the CD. You just see a little menu pop up. So you keep moving for it, and then I realize I have something in my hand. These are the distros I put in there by default. Backtrack. We're very familiar with Backtrack. Some of us enjoy Backtrack. Backtrack fans? Shameless applause. Oathcrack is specifically for password cracking. Kane is a free forensics distribution, so they have a lot of cool tools, and it does. It's a nice GUI interface to interact with a lot of the tools there. Tails. Has anybody heard of Tails or used Tails? Okay, Tails is something I added in recently that'll be out in the new version. That it's basically Tor. It's the idea is you have a bootable Tor system that's going to get you anonymous pretty much everything, and it's a live CD. So you go into use your laptop at some coffee shop, and you anonymously have everything there. Plus, none of your real resources are stored there anyway because it's a live distro. So that's kind of cool. The Ultimate Boot CD has just a huge aggregation of these little small bootable tools for hardware, and you can do deleting passwords and all kinds of stuff. That's somebody else's aggregation of tools that I aggregated into my tool set. Trinity Rescue Disk is another hardware recovery one, again going through the gambit. Puppy Linux is just a really small, really little resource Linux distribution. I figured for any time you came across a Pentium 2 box that's not going to be able to handle a lot of these and you need to get something done, Puppy Linux will be that baseline that you can use. dban, how many people have used dban in a pinch? Derek's boot and nuke, it will wipe the disk, just boot and wipe, which is awesome. And then Conboot is really cool. Lets you get into systems awesomeness. Chris is a big fan.
Yes, I am. Is everybody here familiar with Conboot? If you're not familiar with Conboot, you should absolutely look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the bomb. I mean, it's just so fast, and you don't have to worry about cracking passwords. It just lets you ignore passwords, They don't need no stinking passwords.
Again, tying in with this, the Katana Toolkit, this is how you get on a box. This is a good tool to use to say, oh, I want to leverage this box. Oh, there's a password there. Crap. Well, you boot in through this, and the next time it reboots, you can now get on the Windows box and say you can get those local resources. You can do all the stuff that we talked about earlier. So it does kind of overlap.
Right. In fact, I wanted to mention, you mentioned something about changing the permissions on the executables of the antivirus and then rebooting. Well, what happens when you reboot? You've logged off. So now you could use Katana to kind of bypass all that and then crank up the toolkit again.
Yeah. This is just the menu interface that I have set out there. So I try to give a lot of information back. Again, focusing on people that are getting into this or not necessarily familiar with a lot of these. I put a little bit of information about what each one does. So if you're the first time you're booting it, you can kind of see a little bit. You click on this, it goes into their menu structure, and then you're able to run their live distro. How to boot from a live flash drive. I mentioned before, not that many people have done it. So there's a boot menu. When you're booting up the system, the little BIOS key says function or whatever. It says boot menu. You can just select USB. Generally, it's going to be CD drive and then hard disk. And so it might not do it by default like you're used to with CDs. Sometimes you have to go in and edit the BIOS. There's no boot menu option. You just go in, change the BIOS. There's normally a boot order. Just put flash drive above hard disk, and it will boot there before it boots into the hard disk. So that's just an example. I should have probably highlighted before I took the picture of the correct one, but that's the order that CD, USB, whatever, but as long as hard drive is lower on the stack, it will boot from the flash drive. Yeah.
Do you have a way around password ROMs?
Do I have a way around password ROMs? So you can't get into the BIOS essentially, and you can't change the boot order. I do actually. There's a tool called the Plop Boot Manager. It's a live CD that will, if you can boot from CD, which is pretty common. Sometimes if they've gone through the trouble of changing the BIOS a lot where they're only going to boot from hard drive first, this doesn't work. But most systems are default configured to boot CD because that's what you're going to use to install Windows or Linux, whatever. So this boots from CD and it has a redirect to USB. So it bypasses all of this stuff, and you can redirect that to Katana, to the Katana flash drive. So yeah, that's a big issue because a lot of people, if they do good, they'd have to do two good things in order to write the password and realize they shouldn't have CD above disk to kind of circumvent that.
Right, and Ronan, you said something about how large is that utility?
Oh, it's really, you can put it on like one of those little tiny CDs.
Yeah. So you can slip it in your pocket and you won't look, all suspicious, right?
Yeah, it's a couple, like 10 megabytes or whatever. So yeah, you don't have to have it on a rig haul CD. You can do the tiny credit card size ones. I mentioned I like to have this modified. I'm a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. I like everything to be configurable in the environment. So I wrote a tool called Forge, which just runs in Linux because Why would you want to use anything else? But it adds additional distributions to it, and the work in progress is it'll also remove them so you have a sort of update functionality. Because maybe you're not a big fan of Backtrack, maybe you prefer Pin2, or you want to use Samurai, or you want to use Knoppix. A lot of people are coming into the field of security are very familiar with Knoppix. They're comfortable with it because everybody uses it for, when you forget a password, you can go back into the disk or recovery or whatever. So I didn't want to pick favorites. I really just wanted to say, this is what I put on there, but if you want to use something else, please have at it. So there's about 10 different distributions you can add. I've added them all to a flash drive at one time, which I was like, this is awesome, at least for me, to have just the selection of like 20 different distributions at the drop of a hat was really cool. At that point, it was just a 16 gig one. But at this point, there's so many more distros I'm messing with. It might have to be a 32 gig, but it'd be fun to, you've got all of them on there. It's a front end to make it configurable. Again, this is actually a configurable one. All this is a front end for a bash script. So my idea with that is, oh cool, you have a distro, write a module for that. So I don't have to write the module, and I will incorporate it in there, so it's making it a lot easier for me. So I give you the download link, I tell you, point to the ISO image or whatever, and it's a formatted, there's an install.sh, there's an uninstall. There's a couple configuration things that have to happen in order to get it bootable, but it's not that. You can actually run it from the command line in that way too. But yeah, it works in Linux. It's a portable. It's actually a portable Windows Linux binary. So it's compiled. Everything's in there. It doesn't have to. You don't have to install it. Let's make it again easier on the user. So let's get a demo of the Toolkit.
Cool. Yeah. So the bootable. Let's see here. Okay, so this is just one example. I mean, obviously going through all the different options of Katana and booting the different distros would take forever. Later, Ronan's going to show you something really cool in booting the backtrack and doing some automated stuff a little later. So this is just a little quick demonstration of one of the tools called Elfcrack. There we go. All right, and so you can see we're booting up Katana and we're going to run Elfcrack and do it in automatic mode. All right, and this is really good if you just don't have a lot of time and you don't want to, get caught. yeah. You don't want to get caught and you don't want to be, having to sit there typing and all this stuff to make all this work. So it just automatically cranks up Elfcrack and starts cracking passwords for you, right? And so, meanwhile, you're still hiding under the reception desk so you don't get caught. And then when it finishes, as you go along, you just take your cell phone and take pictures of the screen, for the report. So, I said hide under the reception desk. I really meant like hide behind the receptionist desk, but it was reminding me of a bad memory of a pen test. So anyway, as you can see, even though time passes a few times, it's actually fairly quick. And if you're not familiar with Elfcrack, well, first of all, Google it. But second of all, it uses some like small rainbow tables to speed up the cracking process. And so essentially, most passwords, local passwords that are going to be on workstations, you're going to end up being able to crack it in 5 minutes, right? So it's not like you're having to let it run forever. And of course, if you're afraid of somebody walking up while you're doing that, you just turn the monitor off while it's running, right? Okay, so a little handy dandy there. Your password. There we go.
So the documentation is something that I worked on a lot in here. I wanted people, again, getting into the field to know a little bit about the tools, and some of them are more obscure and they're never really talked about at conferences or online. So there's a readme.html that's in there, and you can go through, and I broke it down between the toolkit, kind of a lot of what I talked about today, the bootable, and then a couple of FAQ and whatever. But you can go through here and really not even be using Katana, just kind of learn what tools are out there and read through that. And there's links in each one of those, so you can go to the original where I got the tool from and check those out and read more about them. But I put a lot of work into trying to get documentation on what's in there, because I think that was a really hard part. I remember when I started, just knowing what tool to use for what, took a lot of effort and research, and so I tried to put that in there to make it a lot easier for a lot of people. I'm never gonna learn. So, third thing, or fourth thing, or wherever we're at, I want to automate these attacks. I want to use Katana. I don't have to be there necessarily to be interacting with it, but I want it to perform these tasks for me. What can I do? Enter the glitch. So the glitch is a hardware hacking platform. It's actually like a platform you use for hacking, not necessarily that you will be hacking against hardware. These are some projects that I'm currently working on with it: keystroke injection, key logging, Bluetooth remote control, RFID stuff, and embedding it in hardware. So this is a little hardware device. You can configure it through a micro SD card, so it's just plain text files that you can tell it what to do with, and you have these dip switches to configure payloads. So that's about the size of it. Literally, that's about the size of it. So what we're going to be using here with Katana is the keystroke injection capabilities. So what I put in there, I take care of a lot of the stuff for the user anyway. Like running a single command, you don't have to know how to, like Windows R or GUI R opens up a run command, you type in command prompt, blah, blah, blah. I take care of all that. All you have to say is, here's a command I would like to run. Here's a script that I would like to run. And my software, firmware, takes care of all of the rest. So you can run a single command, you could run a script, you can actually copy over a binary using hex, so it will read in a binary off the micro SD card, type it out, because remember, this is a keystroke injection, this is emulating a keyboard, types it out into a text file, uses VB script to reverse that, so it moves the hex back into binary format, and runs that as an executable. And then I wrote another scripting language called HittyScript, which allows you more keyboard interaction style, so you can tell it to hit function F4 if you want to, because normally with a script you can't necessarily do that. So it's a special language I wrote that really allows you to interact with the GUI a little more in this keyboard emulation style. Really easy to set up. There's a little configuration file that says, I'm going to run this against a Windows box, here's the payload, that's it, and then you provide the payload. And there's an optional help file for when you have no idea what's going on. This is a help that you provide yourself to say, oh, this is what my payload did. That's good to know. So the glitch with Katana equals pwnage. Automating tasks is what it's all about. It's a flash drive, it's emulating a keyboard. It's all the stuff you can do with a keyboard that's going to run as soon as you set it to run. It'll run quickly, it'll run without the user present. So when you're normally going in, you're sneaking in, you plug in Katana, you're doing all those tasks and stuff. You don't have to be there unless you need some don't know the feedback or interact. You can, if you can guess ahead of time or pre-plan what the attack is going to be and how it's going to be structured, then you just plug this in and you don't have to be there anymore. It's going to take care of all that stuff for you. So you can leverage the GUI, you can automate the whole process of Katana's plugged in. Yes, I would like to mount it. Yes, I would like to go to this directory. I would like to launch this application. I hit Alt-Shift or function or whatever a couple times. I hit Tab. I run this. You try ahead of time, and then all of a sudden it'll launch all that stuff for you, unmount Katana, and then you're done. You come back a little bit later. All the stuff, all the information you wanted is at your fingertips. It's been saved to the file, and then you're good. You walk away. That's my Katana plus glitch equals pwnage. This is in a mouse. So the mouse, the cable goes into a tiny little USB hub. The USB hub connects back to the mouse, connects to a micro SD to USB adapter, and connects to the glitch. This mouse works just fine. You plug it in, it says, oh, I'm installing new drivers, and it's a new mouse. So you're like, cool. It needs drivers for the mouse. Meanwhile, all of this stuff is being installed. But as far as the Windows user is concerned, a new device is installing, which is not anything surprising. Or even if you modified their current mouse, they plug it in and they think, stupid Windows, this driver is already installed, why are you installing it again? Because I want to add some evilness to it. So I'm going to try to switch over and run a quick demo of me doing this from my phone, or controlling this from my phone.
It's good. It's good.
Is it? Yeah. Okay, so while Ronan's setting that up, like he said, the whole scenario is, and I'm really psyched about this because I get into these situations very often where, I get into one of the client's buildings and I'm walking around and I find an unattended workstation, or if I find a workstation that's either locked or turned off, and I'd love to boot it up with Katana and do all this cool stuff, but I don't want to be standing there doing all that stuff when someone walks in the office from behind me and busts me, right? So it would be really cool to be able to just plug this thing in, maybe around the back of the workstation, and then be able to walk away, maybe even walk around the corner from the office and go to the men's room and sit in the stall, right? Who's going to mess with me there? Well, I hope nobody, right? And so then I pull out my handy dandy phone with Bluetooth and connect to the Bluetooth on the glitch, and then I can, when I choose, I can crank this up and get it rolling.
So, I'm going to go ahead and start this script. I just plugged in the glitch. In theory, you could have them both plugged in at the same time. Or it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to be running this attack from my Nokia N900 Pwn phone because it runs Linux natively, and I've installed some of the Bluetooth stuff on here. So I'll put the mic down real quick.
As you can see, nothing's happening because he hasn't started it up. So, you have control. It's not just because you've plugged it in, it doesn't automatically get started. You may not want that to happen.
Yeah, so if you have it set to the dip switch is a control mechanism, that was my default one. Normally what would happen if you're using the dip switch is that when you plugged it in, it would run its stuff. Because you put a module on there, you configured using the dip switch which one you wanted to run, and it would run it automatically. But the Bluetooth allows you, the time delay, you get to command and control. If you think somebody's walking by or whatever reason, you wait, and then all of a sudden you run it. So Bluetooth is an alternative to pre-programming it to run automatically. So I've just started working on this interface, which is why it's taking me a second. Okay, I just launched the payload. I have a little bit of delay set up, and I haven't edited the code, but the delay was originally in there so that the drivers would install for whatever it's emulating. So it just started right now launching its attack, and its attack so far is hit enter twice, which isn't very exciting, except for just hitting enter twice caused it to boot into backtrack from Katana. So the scenario is, you're on a pen test, you walk in, you find a computer that's in an office that's not being used, but it still has power, it's still probably on the network. You plug in, your mouse in the back, or you have an extra mouse on there, or another kind of device that you've hidden it in, or you've got whatever equipment here, it's plugged in the back, it's out of sight. You reboot the system, you turn off the monitor, and you walk away. So you have like a 20-second interaction with the system, and then you're done with. The monitor's off, nobody's working in there, they're hopefully not going to notice anything's going on. And then the system, it's booting up in Backtracker, really, whatever. This is really a single example of automation. This could easily be done, again, on the Windows side. You boot up, you use the Toolkit. You're going to use the menu structure to select what tool you want to run. You wait. Okay, it's booted. It's going to start its automatic magic. I'll put this down so you don't need that anymore. One thing that it's good to do is to have time delays and to get...
Wait a minute, Ron. You just put your phone down.
I did.
Are you controlling that with your mind?
That was my real project, was mind control, and this is the way I chose to use it, was to automatically generate stuff. Okay, so what's going on? Getting my DHCP address. I'm creating a password, because to SSH you have to have a password. Creating an SSH key, starting the SSH service on the box, and then again, I'll talk about it in a second. Creating a reverse SSH connection back out to, in this case it's my local host system, but it's back out of the network anywhere, typing in my password. And now I'm out of the network. Hooray! All of that was just, really easy to do. Yes, thank you.
Give it the love. Come on. So we know the hacker uses of this, right?
Are there other uses?
There might be.
There probably are.
And for $19.95.
Yeah.
Ron and I were talking about this last night as we were kind of working through this, and he's describing this process. I'm going, hang on a second. So what you're trying to tell me is that on the fly, you just created a new private key for that live distribution, almost like a one-time private key for SSH. That's a lot more secure than a lot of the other solutions that do. That are doing these call-outs, right? That you have a Dropbox and it calls out to your server, i.e. Pwn plug. I think they're right down the hall there, right? That private key, once you establish it, it's established. It's done. If somebody steals the Pwn plug and compromises the Pwn plug, they have your private key and they can, make that passwordless private key only connection to your server, right? This is not unique. It's not. I'm not hating on Pwn plug. In fact, I have one. I like it. It's good stuff. But a lot of the solutions that are doing that and trying to create a secure connection out to your, server on the internet that you're going to now use to get into the client's network. It's hard to secure that device. You have to physically somehow secure it. In this case, if you suspect that you are not going to be able to secure it, once it's powered off, right, that private key is no longer valid. The username and password, well, you can disable that in your server outside, right? So it's a little more secure, well, a lot more secure of an implementation of that whole concept of having a Dropbox, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So again, one example of all the funness that you can have when you combine the glitch with Katana. I think I have, where's my mouse? Hold on. Let me out, VirtualBox. Oh, that's right. Sometimes the mouse goes invisible.
Can you completely just run one program like Derek's new could boot? You could just run that.
Absolutely. So DBAN, auto DBAN, lots of fun. Here, plug this mouse in, and then you report to my office right away. What? I came back and now I have a new mouse, and all of a sudden I have nothing on my system anymore.
Thanks so much for that mouse. What was your name again?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a question back there, so I'm trying to get back to the. Oh, that's a different slide deck. I brought up entirely wrong slides. Shame on me. And we are here. Okay, so this is cool for you guys here. I'm doing a limited time Katana 3.0 beta release. And Katana 2.0 was out 2 years ago. And as I mentioned many times, it's configurable, so I thought I'd throw it out there and people can configure it. I saw a SourceForge project that had a different name that said, it's like Katana, but updated. And I was like, all right, I get it, guys. I took the hint. I should probably do something new. So I have a 3.0 beta out now. There are discs at the Hackers for Charity booth here. There was a snafu. There's 2 discs now. There's so many tools in it. Actually, it's two tar files, zip files that you extract and do the stuff. And there's a README that tells you what to do. But there's a limited number of the second one. And when I get over there, I'll bring those out. But you can grab the first one and save you like an hour of download.
There's a kind of an issue we have with the table over there. If you take a disk, if you'll place the appropriate weighted cache on the table to balance it out.
Yeah. You don't want to break Johnny Long's heart by breaking the table. You have to, that's right. So you said you have to do the disk, the amount of weight of the disk is the amount of cache you have to put out on the table for that. Again, donations for Hackers for Charity. How many people like Hackers for Charity here? I mean, come on. Where's the love? So I'm also going to be giving another talk at HackerCon about this.
I think we have a question.
Can I pay in Bitcoin?
How much are Bitcoins worth?
How much do they
as
weigh?
of like right now?
I don't know.
And how much do they weigh is the better question.
Yeah, that's
it depends on whether a Bitcoin bank got hacked today.
That's right. That's what I say. As of this moment, how much do they weigh?
Anybody got a newspaper handy?
One thing before I take any more questions, I am doing a Kickstarter project right now to make the glitch. I have cards up here about it. I have demo stuff at the HFC booth. I would really appreciate any support you guys can give because it's ending on Wednesday. And the more I can get now, I've reached my goal to get them built. But thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks to you guys. It's, you guys are making this happen. It's a community project. But the more I can build now, the more capital I can get, the more I can build later on. So to make sure the project is a success in the future, the more that I can sell now, I can build more boards. They'll be available later on at some point. So yeah, tell this to people, doing Twitter, everything like that would be great. If you missed the download for Katana, it's available till the exact same date. So I'm trying to seep into your mind. October 3rd is an important date. You need to do 2 things by October 3rd. Yeah, so check that out. I would really appreciate any help that I can get from that. I was going to originally get it privately funded, but I decided to make it a community project. If the community wanted it, I would make it. If nobody supported it, then it was just going to go to the wayside. So you guys have spoken and you really want to see it happen. So thank you very much for that.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks. We got the cards up here in the front if you want to grab one.
Come on up front if you got any
grab
questions or
one.
whatever. Grab.